your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C. and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live, episode 2, people. Welcome. For all of you that are tuning in right now or tuning in later, we appreciate you coming in and tuning in to MinneZona Sports Live. And without further ado, I'm Matt Callahan, a.k.a. DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. etc., etc., etc. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Paul Vold, the Shield. How we doing, Shield?
Doing fantastic. Oh, so happy to be here for show number 2. I mean, if we have as good as a show as we did for show number 1, I mean, we're off to a rip-in and roaring start. I love it.
Exactly. And, we had a lot of great things happen in episode 1, but we have a lot of great content here today. Starting off with a little thing called Tater Tot Hot Take. We got 2 of them for you, and I think they're going to be pretty cool. So why don't you just check this out for a second.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
And you're darn right it's fresh out of the oven. Oh, just fantastic intro.
Trademark pending with Sarah Ann Tewsvold.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So I think I don't know how long that process takes, but
takes a while.
Yeah, I know that. All right, so anyway, our first Tater Tot Hot Take, Voldy, this is called the Kubiak Project, okay? The Minnesota Vikings finally announced their coaching staff for the upcoming 2020 season, and it is official. Gary Kubiak will be the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings in the 2020 season. And just to say, too, you look at what Kubiak did last year as an offensive assistant. Then also there are some other signings that we should talk about, or not signings, but at least guys that are in new positions. Andre Patterson goes from D-line. He'll still be D-line, go to co-defensive coordinator. And then a guy by the name of Adam Zimmer. Oh, that rings a bell. I almost think that –
a little bit.
I think, he's the son of Mike Zimmer. I'm not sure. We'll have to figure that out. No, but Adam Zimmer is also co-defensive coordinator. Worked with the linebackers a lot, and they're both Patterson's in his ninth season. Zimmer's in his 7th season. So we got those guys coming in, defensive coordinators. No surprise there. Then Andrew Janoko is wide receivers now. Durante Jones is going to be the new defensive backs coach after the Vikings let go of Jerry Gray. And then Phil Rauscher, assistant offensive line. So basically, as you look at the offense, Voldy, as we put in the Kubiak project, as we've seen with last year, it was kind of a zone running scheme. And I feel like we're the Broncos from Super Bowl 50 now, as I kind of look at it. Because, I mean, all the guys have connections now with that. So, Voldy, what are your thoughts on Gary Kubiak being the OC in Minnesota?
I think this was all kind of the plan as soon as Mike Zimmer saw that Gary Kubiak was available. This was the writing on the wall. Kubiak has been a great offensive mind. I mean, he took, Denver to the Super Bowl. He's been in the big game numerous times, and he has taken a lot of teams that have struggled offensively and turned them around when he was down with the likes of Houston in that era. in the mid early 2000s. Took that franchise to a very interesting place. Not only the fact he had Matt Schaub, he also had the likes of Andre Johnson down there. Really turned that franchise around in the AFC South to a contender in the AFC in some of those odd years down for that division. As soon as I saw that Gary Kubiak was going to be on the staff as an offensive advisor, it was only a matter of time before he was going to take the offensive coordinator role, with it being the likes of, Pat Shurmur leaving to be a head coach. And then also you see Kevin Stefanski, who had interviews last year as the head coach. Now he's the official head coach for the Cleveland Browns. And now he just slides right in. I think even down the stretch as well, there might have been a little bit more Gary Kubiak in the offensive scheme of things, with Stefanski pretty much 2 feet out the door for the Vikings. And, it'd just be interesting to see a full offseason with Gary Kubiak now as the offensive coordinator and kind of, see what kind of adjustments, if anything, to the offensive game plan.
I mean, honestly, you look at the offensive game plan for the Vikings, and it has Kubiak written all over it. And I just want to show you something from little stats from him as an offensive advisor. With Kubiak, I mean, you look at it here, 3,523 passing yards, over 2,000 yards rushing yards. I mean, in total offense, 16th, and then 23rd in passing, 6th in rushing. Clearly, we were a running team.
Oh, yeah.
Just plain and simple. But when we had to throw it, they were effective. I mean, it was play action, zone reads, to the left, to the right. I mean, this was the offense, and it had Gary Kubiak's. I mean, this was a Gary Kubiak mindset. Not saying that Kevin Stefanski didn't have any input. I'm sure he did. But the thing is that when Gary Kubiak came to the Vikings, like you said, Voli, it was only a matter of time. And that's the thing, is now that Kubiak is finally the offensive coordinator, it's going to be interesting to see how it looks in the offseason. And I think they're going to do a lot of cool things. So anyway, we got a quick comment here from Nick Vandenplas. Oh, I know him. I know him. But yeah, let's see. To me, Kubiak needs to set the direction. Are they running? If so, why pay so much for Thielen, Diggs, along with
Absolutely.
Cousins? Things like that. I would say when you have those two guys, you have Thielen, you have Diggs, I think they're very effective in the play-action game. I mean, you always have to look at both Thielen and Diggs on the outside. I mean, these guys are still in their primes. They're still running great routes, things like that. But if this is the mindset that Kubiak, or this is what how Kubiak wants to set the offense, per se.
Right.
I mean, that's fine. But you got to have playmakers on the outside. You can't just be like, we're just going to run it. That's it. No, you got to have playmakers on the outside. But I understand the question with that. But I think you have to hold on to Thielen and Diggs. You have to pay. I understand paying them all that money, but you need them. You can't just have Joe Bag of Donuts on the outside, Sorry to take your tagline there, Voldy, but I mean, it's true. You can't just have some Joe Schmo coming in, but you got to have those two guys on the outside. What do you think, Voldy?
I mean, I kind of see a little similarities with this team overall. That's got the same similarities that Kubiak, was at the helm with when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl. They've got the quarterback, they've got receivers who are good at, catching the deep ball, can work in the play action game, and are also good blockers, underrated blocking in the department for the likes of Adam Thielen, Olabisi Johnson, Stephon Diggs as well. You got to have the running backs as well. I mean, that's another thing too. You got the likes of Dalvin Cook. You've got Alexander Madison, who was a rookie who came out of nowhere for the Vikings, who slipped right into that role when Cook was hurt.
Perfect.
And then you also throw in Mike Boone there in that stable of running backs That's another thing that Kubiak had to deal with when he was in Denver. They didn't really have an established running back, who was going to be their number one.
Like
Kind of just going.
Anderson. No.
Yeah, C.J. Anderson. They had 3 or 4 guys rotating at any time, at any point, and well, safe to say, Super Bowl 50 was the reason why that Kubiak was able to have that much success with a lot of those receivers. Very similarity, in the blocking scheme of things, like Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas as well, or a couple of those receivers that can make plays downfield and also help out that running game in the blocking side of things. I think overall, with what Nick said, you gotta be able to set what is going to be the direction of this team. Are you going to, give the ball to Thielen and Diggs like it was a couple of years ago, where those guys were 2 1,000-yard receivers and the running game what it was a nice little complimentary piece? Or is it going to be this past season where, you get over 2,000 yards rushing from a couple of nice running backs, especially with Dalvin Cook kind of getting banged up, that shoulder causing him a lot of trouble the last few weeks of the season? Or are you going to try and be as balanced as you can? Of course, every team wants to be as balanced as possible, but right away you got to say, we're going to work on what we need to in the passing game. Yep. We need to get these receivers because we're paying them this money, or going to be looking towards the running game, developing the future with the likes of Madison and also Mike Boone as well. Of course, Dalvin Cook needs to get healthy.
Yeah, balanced is how I look at it. That's Absolutely. Where they got to find. And I think Kubiak's been in this league long enough. I mean, seriously, I'm looking at where he's been. He's been with Denver for a while. He was let's not forget, he was the head coach of the Houston Texans from 2006 to 2013. So he knows what it takes to get to that level. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to many Super Bowls, actually. Yeah. As a coach and as a player. So he knows how that works. But with this league now, it's been kind of, you have 2 young head coaches in the Super Bowl here too. Okay. Yep. Kyle Shanahan is a guy that you look at who's just been fantastic, and Andy Reid has been in the league. So it's kind of like the young guy versus the guy that's had the most experience. But also you look at Matt LaFleur, who led the Packers to a 13-3 season. I know it's the Packers, but they did go 13-3. You got to give them some credit there. Good. Even though I'm a Viking fan, we don't like talking about the Packers, but still they did do well. We're seeing a lot of young head coaches. I want to see how Kubiak adjusts to what's coming at what's coming to the NFL right now, and it's been taking it by storm with all these young quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, all these guys. I mean, what are they going to do to combat that? And I think Kubiak will have something planned and ready to go, because the Vikings have the talent there. It's just like, where are we going to use the balance? So that's how I look at it. But I think it's a great signing, though. Or not signing, but he fits the role perfectly. And then also being thrown in there too, you got Kubiak, and then you have some added guys in there too, which I think are going to be great. And then you look at the defensive side, co-defensive coordinators. I mean, there's no surprise there. I kind of knew that was going to happen. I mean, Zimmer runs the whole defense pretty much, right. And Andre Patterson's a great co-defensive coordinator and stuff like that. So anyway, we're going to move on here to our next Tater Tot hot take. We got to involve the zoners here, people, okay?
We do.
The zoners need to sound off because it's Super Bowl week, guys. It's Super Bowl week.
That it is.
Austin Hanley, Mahomes is the GOAT. Maybe, but I don't know. Shield might have something to say about that one.
He's a GOAT. I don't know if he's the GOAT.
Yeah,
you got to get
there you go.
Got to get.
See,
those
there's a
correct.
difference. There's a difference. So, anyway, getting into it here, we want to hear from you, zoners. Okay, so what we want is who do you think's going to win? We want the score, and then also we want your Super Bowl MVP. Okay, so post on. Voli and I will give our predictions now. We'll kind of ramp things up a little bit, too, just so you can hear our takes. We can hear your takes, too, because we want to hear from the zoners, of course. I mean, throughout the show, comment away. But, Voli, I'm going to start things off, okay? I want to compare the 2 quarterbacks here, you got Patrick Mahomes, and then you got your guy, Jimmy Garoppolo. Just kind of looking at some of their postseason stats. Let's show you a couple of things here with their stats. Patrick Mahomes has been great. I mean, 46 out of 70. Completion percentage, 65. That's pretty doggone good. 615 passing yards in only a couple games and 8 passing touchdowns. But then you look at Jimmy G. You kind of look at his stats. You're like 17 of 27, 63 completion percentage, 208 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. But you look at it, they have been a run-based team, Voldy, and so far in the playoffs, I mean, you see the Vikings have, they got run over. I mean, Tevin Coleman ran over everybody, and then you have, the Packers who got run over too. So I guess I don't feel so bad since we're not the only team that got run over. But it looks like Court Hansen's got the Chiefs. We got Chiefs going on. San Fran all the way from Patrick Moore. Oh boy, man! See, it's already 1-1 here. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the quarterback play, I'm looking at it. Mahomes, Garoppolo, Blake Hockert's got KC 28-24, and he's got Mahomes as the MVP. Max Graybo's got KC 28-21. I think KC is kind of running away with it here, but Voldy, I want you to give me who's going to win, score, right. Super Bowl MVP. Hit me with it.
I look at this matchup, and I'm looking at purely from the fact that I think it's going to be a track meet overall. Both sides of the ball, everybody's going to have their ears pinned back. They're going to be ready to go. I think Kansas City has got the edge. They are playing like a team. And is going to get a San Francisco 20 MVP, and this is going to be fun because it can go either way. I am going to put as the Super Bowl MVP Travis Kelce.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think a lot of it. I almost think there, defense wins championships, and that's how I look at it. But man, Patrick Mahomes has been playing really well, and
absolutely,
I don't know how you can stop him. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, what are the San Francisco 49ers going to do to stop Patrick Mahomes? That's a great question. How are they going to beat one of the best young QBs we've seen in a while? You got Nick Bosa. You got one of the best front four. You have a great linebacker. You have great linebackers. You have Richard Sherman shutting down guys, but can he keep up with Tyreek Hill? I mean, I've been debating this ever since this was the matchup, and for some reason, I'm probably going to go KC 27-23. It's going to be close, okay? It's not going to be like last year's Super Bowl where it was just kind of a defensive game, which it won't be a defensive game when you have Patrick Mahomes. But my MVP, Patrick Mahomes, man. I mean, seriously, he's that good. We've talked him up a little bit, and he's up there in conversation with being one of the greats, and so far. But, we'll have to see how it all plays out. But if he wins this Super Bowl, and honestly, I want to see Andy Reid win a Super Bowl here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's just been a great coach a long time, and I mean, it will be great to see Andy Reid get a Super Bowl. He definitely deserves it. He came close when he was with the Eagles, but yeah. Okay, we got more comments. Change my mind. LOL from Stuffage, Nathaniel Struffert. Whoever's defense. There you go. Tyreek can stay on the sideline hurt. We still got 3 guys faster than Sherman. That's true. There's a lot of speed on there. Peter Farley, 49ers 27, Chiefs 21, similar to the Seahawks. Broncos, Super Bowl, number 1 defense is too much. You see, that's what I was thinking too. And I think, if if San Fran's able to run the ball like they have been, I think they can control the clock. So that's how I look at it. But Voldy, I want to bring up something else here for the zoners as well. Which tight end would you rather have, Travis Kelce or George Kittle?
Boy, I mean, this is a tough one. I mean, you might as well just pick. I mean, it's really a coin flip. You can go with either one, honestly.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, if I had to pick one, gun to my head right now, I'm going Travis Kelce. I think there's just a little bit more there.
Yeah.
A little bit more established, but I mean, you can't go wrong with either. But, you know, as of immediate reaction, I'm going Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, yeah. I mean, I feel like Travis Kelce's a greater red zone threat, whereas George Kittle can do it all. And I'm not saying that Travis Kelce can't, but George Kittle is a phenomenal blocker. I mean, I've seen so many replays of the camera on him, and he just pancaking guys. He's taking on D linemen, for goodness sake. I mean, this guy is just amazing. He's from Iowa, the University of Iowa, and I mean, this guy, George Kittle, he can do it all. But if I were to pick a tight end, I got to go Travis Kelce as well, Voldy. I mean, he's just a big physical guy. He's been great for many years. It's just going to be great. Looks like Max Grabo says Travis Kelce all the way. Oh, I'm serious. All right. I mean, I think it's almost kind of a runaway with Kelce, but do not count out George Kittle. He has been fantastic so far for the Niners Travis Kelce for the KC, and then George Kittle as well. Looks like Joey Geske says Damian Williams MVP 28-16 Chiefs. Whoo, that's a bold move there.
Bold Showtime. Prediction there with that.
Yeah. We'll see that's a bold prediction, Con. We'll see how it plays out. So, but I think we got to move on here because first of all, thank you for all the comments on here, but keep commenting away because our next segment it's a Voldy segment, and it's just going to be fantastic. Check out this Voldy's Virtues.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's Virtues.
All right, Shield, why don't you enlighten us with your wisdom?
And this is something that has been simmering for a few weeks on my end because of the unnecessary amount of attention that has been brought to the baseball world. We're talking about the sign-stealing fallout with the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox being caught using cameras and all sorts of menagerie, if you will, to relay signs that pitchers are throwing certain pitches to their hitters. Now, this is something, of course, in the vast book of unwritten rules of baseball that is considered cheating. So much so that there has been major fallout over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we know that the Houston Astros, A, fired their manager, A.J. Hinch, B, also fired their general manager, Jeff Luhnow, and C, we're going to get one-year bans from the game of baseball, lost first and second round draft picks for not only this year, but for 2021, and also the Astros were stripped with a $5 million fine. And this isn't just going towards the Astros as well. There's been fallout. Of course, the Red Sox did have to fire their manager, Alex Cora, who just won a championship 2 years ago, technically 2 Astros that have now moved, like so Carlo, who was an Astro at the time of the incident as well. He was set to be the manager of the New York Mets this year, and he was let go before even the start of the season.
Yeah.
There's been a lot that has happened here in the last couple of weeks from something that isn't all that big of a deal. The game of baseball is all about trying to outsmart your opponent. The fact that it's taken this long in this day and age of social media, internet, cameras all over the place, that something like this hasn't happened yet. The fact that the Astros were using cameras, replay, whatever, to relay signs, every Major League Ball. Stealing signs, knowing what pitchers are going to throw, is something that has been done since the very beginning of baseball. This is something that I have a little bit of experience with as well.
Right.
1 year with the SMSU baseball team, we were playing down in Sioux City, Iowa. And I do have multiple witnesses and people that can corroborate this story. In fact, one of our good teammates played all 4 years, Sutton Massett, figured out what the opposing team, their signs were, because they did the number system. They had the wristbands on the arms. He figured out what pitches were being thrown with the 4-number sequence or whatever they would call out, and then relayed that to our hitters by a series. If it was going to be, I think it was a fastball, they'd say your last name. If it was like a changeup, he'd say your first name and like your nickname and your number. That helped out in a big way to the fact that we were able to get at least one of 2 games against that opponent. Is that stealing? Punished? No. Because that is part of the game. Adjusting up your signs is something that is part of the game of baseball. Figuring it out little by little with each pitch that goes by. The fact that technology has changed the game as well. There's replays in baseball. Could challenge a bad call or a play where first I would have told you were insane, because this is baseball. Things like this happen. With bad calls, you move on. But the fact that it's taken this long for any team to get caught using this technology, is it illegal? No, this is just the way of the world now. There's technology, there's cameras everywhere. And the fact that the Astros were caught banging on garbage cans to let their players know that a fastball is coming, that's as archaic as those. You might as well just tell them, hey, a fastball is coming, and then just go with from there. And the amount of punishment that's gone on, I mean, honestly, the fact that only the Astros are the ones that have been, the ones that have dealt with the amount of punishment. And at the same time, the Red Sox, of course, they let go their manager, Alex Cora. Did win another World Series for the Red Sox. Very happy about that. But this is something that obviously is going to change the game of baseball. But overall, I don't see this as an issue on the fact that there was such a turmoil from fans saying, oh, they should be stripped of the World Series titles. There should be an asterisk. Players should be fined, suspended. They have to apologize. No, this is baseball. If you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. Half the game of baseball is cheating. The other half is trying. That's literally it. And the fact that some of the greatest players of all time succeeded 3 out of 10 times in a sport where you are destined to fail 7 out of 10 times, and you are still considered one of the greatest players of all time. This is just overall. I'm not happy about the fact that, of course, this is something that I never saw coming. I was just more surprised by the fact that something like this hasn't happened a lot sooner.
Right. And I think there's a lot. And we got some zoners tuning in here saying, not enough of a discipline. Teams should be stripped of a championship and moved to Montreal. I think Court's trying to get you going.
Away. It already happened. You can't unring a bell. Although moving to Montreal is not bad. I wouldn't mind seeing the Expos come back.
Yeah, that's true. I know you've been kind of banking on that one, Voldy. But one thing, the only thing that you can't unring a bell, but the one bell that they should at least try to unring is the 2009 NFC Championship game. But we won't go as far as that. We're talking baseball here. But as for me, there is so much going on with that, Voldy. And I think, like you said, it's kind of blown up out of proportion. It's part of the game. But with all this new technology coming in too, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, well, if there's new technology, maybe we can use this to our advantage, which I think a lot of teams have. And you know what? I bet you anything that the Astros aren't the only team that have done it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And I think we can both agree that it's going to be like that. And there's going to be teams that I mean, the Yankees, I don't know. I'd rather see an exciting game than die of boredom. Keep up the sign stealing. More home runs. Blake Ockert, man. I agree. I mean, more Bombas, baby. Let's go. You
Absolutely.
know, like with the Twins. I mean, gosh, we have the bringer of rain now. Let's do it. But, yeah, I agree. It makes, honestly, it's a great story because it makes the game interesting. It really does. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, whoa, drama in baseball, there's not too much of that. Well, with all the steroids and stuff like that, now it's like sign stealing. Oh, wow, this is a really good story. And, I feel like the media kind of blew it up a little bit too. And, Alex Cora, being involved in it is kind of, it's almost like a witch hunt in a way. And it's kind of like, oh, well, who was involved? We got to find this person. But you know what? You find it out, great, but at the same time, too, it's like it keeps it interesting. I mean, it does. It keeps it interesting. Not saying it's a bad thing, but then you look at the Twins. I mean, well, we don't need to get into that, but I mean, honestly, I think it was blown up out of proportion. I 100% agree with you, Voldy. But first of all, Joey Guest, bring back steroids. More home runs, right, Voldy?
Well, it still can't help you hit a baseball. You still got to do that yourself just because your muscles are bigger.
Right. Let's play ball. Done with the scandal now. You gotta love that. Nice one, Stuffage. Anyway, I think we got to move on to everybody's favorite segment. Voldy, you've got some good ones. Check this out real quick.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, zoners, you know the drill. Whatever Voldy brings out a story, give us what you think. Is it absurd or approved? So without further ado, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
All right, our first story here for absurd or approved. This one comes out of Super Bowl Media Week, at least to start off here before the big game coming up on Sunday. San Francisco 49ers running back Raheem Mostert did sign a 3-year contract with the 49ers most recently, $8.7 million. Not bad for a team that's not bad for a player who's been part of 7 teams in the last 5 years. Now, one of those clauses in his contract is going to take away one of his great pastimes, surfing. It's said in the contract that it prohibits him from extraordinary sports, such as surfing. Now, absurd or approved, the clauses of the contract keeping Raheem Mostert off the waves and quite possibly ending one of his, touchdown celebrations.
Well, it's tough. And, honestly, if he's into, surfing and stuff like that, let him surf. But at the same time, too, what if he gets injured? You always got to put that into consideration. But with his celebration move, it shouldn't be a problem. But at the same time, too, in his contract, it prohibits him. But I think I understand why they did it. I think it's a little absurd. Just because it's kind of one of those things. It's like a lot of people like to do that. But, he can do that, and I assume he can do it in the off season, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I would imagine that kind of keeps him, probably maybe for the off season, but probably not to the same lengths he probably usually goes
during
surfing.
The season. Yeah.
Right, during the season, yes. I kind of see it as one of those catch-22s. Like, yes, it's good to protect your player, but at the same time, limiting his options a little bit. And he even said that he credits surfing for his good balance and able to push through tackles as well, because of course, standing on the board, you got to have nothing but balance, and, being on flat ground certainly helps, and trying to break through, D linemen and get to the next level. I think it's absurd. You're kind of taking away something that kind of helped a player in a situation. Like I said, he's been with 7 teams in the last 5 years, and he was the leading rusher, and he's been just gashing the playoffs rushing wise. I say it's absurd.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a little absurd. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of, are left scratching your head a little bit. But at the same time, too, you want to protect your player. I understand that and everything, but honestly, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, well, I mean, it's not like he's going like skydiving or skiing or anything like that. But it's one of those things where it's like you kind of brush it off. It's just like, okay, fine, whatever. We'll move on. But yeah, I think it's a little absurd. I agree with you. So, what do we got for the next one, Voldy?
Well, just when you thought the NFL couldn't be any more laughable, on Tuesday, the National Football League did confirm that there was a widespread hack of league and team-connected social media accounts. It said it was cooperating with the platform providers and also law enforcement. As a statement put out by the NFL did say, on Monday, the NFL cybersecurity department became aware of a breach in the league-related social media account, and targeted breaches and additional failed attempts were discovered across the league and team accounts. So apparently somebody or somebodies had the idea, hey, let's hack the NFL Twitter just to mess with people. And it's also more funny because a couple NFC North Division rivals of the Vikings also saw a little bit of the displeasure with the Vikings and also, I should say, the Bears and the Packers Twitter accounts being hacked with some tweets, not saying much other than just trying to get other people's accounts hacked as well. So absurd or approved, the how easy it was for the NFL and also some other teams to get their Twitters hacked into when they probably have at least a good stable of probably a dozen people working in their communications department. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, you look at it. Here we go. Antonio Brown will also start claiming his account got hacked. Okay, stamp of approval. That's probably the best comment of the night.
Absolutely. Hey.
There you go, Austin. Stamp of approval. You even get our stamp of approval, our new stamp of approval. But that's great. I think it's absurd, first of all, that the NFL let this happen. I mean, you should have more engineers or whatever you have to protect your account. If you're getting hacked by some Joe Schmo and you can't protect your account, absolutely absurd. I mean, for goodness sake, the NFL and one thing I do want to say in our lower third here, we did not spell it wrong. It is called the Twitters. We call it the socials medias, okay? This is what we call it. And if you're in the comments saying, well, it's Twitter, not Twitters. No, we did that.
Multiple accounts. How about that?
Twitters. Yeah, exactly. And it was multiple accounts too. Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And basically, yeah, I agree with you, Vol. I think it's absurd that they let it happen. I mean, I don't think you can look at it and say, oh, it's approved. Like, oh, they got hacked. That's just really good. No, that's not good at all. And it looks bad on the NFL right now. And like I said, a lot of teams are probably like, oh, we got to make sure our security's up for all of our accounts now too. So, yeah, I agree. It's a little absurd. And I assume you think so as well, Voldy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty absurd, the fact that, the NFL, it's had its troubles the last few years trying to get everything straightened out, all the way back to the said Deflategate and everything related to that, to this point now where Twitter is just getting hacked left and right. Social media is not safe on any account. Absolutely absurd, especially also being led by Roger Goodell.
There you go. As you'd like to say, the revenge tour is always, watch out, Roger, right, Voldy?
Absolutely.
So anyway, what do we got next, Voldy?
Well, this one's an interesting one. I think this one has been a long time coming, as Major League Baseball is exploring the option of quite possibly putting mics on their umpires when it comes to quite possibly replay reviews, as the Major League Baseball officials and the Umpires Association are actively discussing the possibility of miking up their umps. If the technical aspects can be worked out and the umps are comfortable with the concept, they could be mic'd up sometime, even going into this 2020 season. Both sides said there's a lot of work still to do, but making it sure that it could be in place by opening day, which is only a little under 2 months away. Say about 7 weeks. March 26th is technically opening day. Absurd or approved the fact that Major League Baseball could be miking up umpires.
And again, this is another tough one because, like, is it going to be beneficial? Is it not? Is it going to be good for the game? I mean, again, it's one of those things where, replay is, with all this technology now, they're making use of it. I think it's absurd that they're not fully looking into this more instead of like, oh, we could get this done right before spring training. It's not how it works. I mean, you got to do a little bit more insight into this, and I'm sure they're like, oh, we've had guys looking into this and stuff like that. So I got to say it's absurd because you got to take some – it's going to take some time before you're ready to go with this whole thing with having umpires mic'd up. But at the same time, too, could it be beneficial? I could be wrong, honestly. I could be wrong on that. But at the same time – right now, I feel like they should wait a little bit on that until they are fully ready and see how it goes. But, like the NFL did with the Pro Bowl with the rule changes, why don't they do it during the All-Star game maybe? Give that a try.
Right.
That's another possibility. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I gotta differ with you on this one. Okay. I think it's with the fact that replay has been in effect for a couple of years now. Nobody knows the reason why some of these calls are overturned or why a call stands when umpires make these challenges or they'll go to replay. Because the fact that they'll say that player's out, it's not a home run, or, they changed the call or whatever, nobody knows why. What did we see? I would personally love to see more personality out of the umpires with the fact of getting them mic'd up, so that way they can explain to not only those in attendance at the game, for the viewers at home as well, also calling. Because there's a lot of frustrating things about instant replay in Major League Baseball. Yes, we could see the ball was in the glove and they called him out. But we need to know why. Why was the call a challenge? Why was there also, or, why they're challenging in the first place? We need more clarification. Yes, it's probably going to slow down things in baseball, even though they're trying to speed up everything to everything that it can, which is probably done much, much worse than they have expected when it comes to replays and challenges and getting the game and the calls correct. I would personally love to see these umpires mic'd up and get that going, so that way, because more times than not, I'm just confused half the time.
And then Blake Hockert says, bring in MLB Mike Pereira as well. I mean, if that works for you, I mean,
Ed Hockley.
Yeah. Ed Hockley, there you go.
Old Guns Hockley, gotta have.
So
him.
it gets your stamp of approval, Voldy. You gotta
absolutely
get your stamp in there.
Stamp of approval.
Right. There we go. There's your stamp of approval, right over my face. There's that. So, or there you go, right there. All right, Voldy, I believe you got one more for us.
That I do. Our last story here comes out of the NHL All-Star Game that happened over the weekend, and this was the inaugural 3-on-3 women's exhibition at the NHL All-Star Game, as, of course, the women's hockey, professional hockey, and just women's hockey in general, seen a bit of an uptick in popularity and also of coverage over the last few years with the amount of success. Of course, a couple of years ago, we did see the likes of a women's professional hockey player and also Team USA member, participate in the skills competition for the NHL All-Star Game. But now we're starting to see a little bit more implementation of women's hockey, especially in the 3-on-3, because, I mean, women's hockey has seen a lot of great improvements over the last few years. A lot of young players coming up, seeing not only for Team USA, but also for Team Canada and abroad. The fact that the NHL is being one of those proponents to shed a little bit more light on some of these players that, have put in their time and have quite, kept the game going for women's hockey as well. Of course, the professional side of things, seeing a little bit more traction when it comes to coverage and things of that sort. I mean, absurd or approve the fact that the NHL working to keep the women's hockey game alive, especially showing off some of these great players.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's got my stamp of approval with our new. I mean, this is great. I feel like with our overlay here, we have our stamp of approval. Oh, just beautiful.
Fantastic.
I love it. Kerf Doctor, got to give him some credit on that. That's fantastic. Anyway, I mean, I was before when we were doing our prep here. There's this guy named Wayne Gretzky. I'm sure you've heard of him.
The great one.
I was just kind of reading this quote. He's saying exposure is everything on Friday ahead of the inaugural 3-on-3 women's exhibition over All-Star Weekend. He says it's baby steps. You're not going to flood the market overnight. It takes time to get into the markets and get more youth girls to participate in hockey. It's very important that there is an understanding from the National Hockey League that we want to help grow women's hockey and make girls hockey bigger and better than it's ever been. So he says, I think the commissioner and the NHL have done a tremendous thing by bringing these women out. And I couldn't agree more with the GOAT in hockey as well. But it's having that there during the NHL All-Star game, just not only does it show the sport, but also all the little girls that are watching the game too. They're like, I want to be a hockey player. I want to be that, things like that. So it's very cool. Definitely stamp of approval from me. And I'm sure it's stamp of approval from you, Voldy.
Oh, absolutely. You see a lot of these players coming up, especially for Team USA.
Boom.
Kendall Coyne-Schofield last year was the one that did participate in the skills competition and the fastest skater, and she put up quite a time to impress a whole heck of a lot of people. Now we're moving forward with the women's 3-on-3 with some American and Canadian national players. Who knows, maybe down the road we'll see a little bit more involvement with the National Women's Hockey League.
Yeah.
Possibly see more traction with that and working in conjunction with
Whitecaps, man.
Exactly. The Whitecaps have been pretty good these last couple of years, and maybe down the road we'll see a little bit more coverage of that, and quite possibly the NHL working hand in hand with that league too. Yeah.
I think hockey's a huge thing here in Minnesota. I don't know if people knew that, but I'm sure you do now. Anyway, but yeah, I think absolutely stamp of approval. I think it's one of those things where it shows a lot of growth. And, the Kerf Doctor's just been perfect on putting on these stamp of approvals. We just got to keep doing this. It's just fantastic. When we get absurd, we're going to figure out something with absurd. So great job, Kerf.
Just aim to please, gentlemen. Aim to please.
Hey. Exactly. All right. So anyway, our final segment here, it's a thing called Shield Shoutouts. Check this out.
Shield Shoutouts.
All right, Shield. Do what you do, my man.
All right, well, we got to start things off, unfortunately, with Shield Shoutouts. This past week, the start of this week, unfortunately, we lost a great in the world of sports, not just beyond the sport of basketball itself, but in the world of sports as well. Kobe Bryant and his daughter, Gianna, were taken away way too soon from this world in a helicopter crash on Sunday that was taking place in the area of Los Angeles. So we'd like to send our well wishes to the Bryant family, all those who did perish and their families in that helicopter crash, sending a heavenly Shield shout out to Kobe Bryant, Gianna Bryant, and all those who were lost in that helicopter crash. And the world of sports, and not just the world of sports, but the whole world also responding to the passing of Kobe Bryant and, the impact that he had outside of the game of basketball. A lot of people, at the end of his career, most people would just say, most would say that he would just stick with basketball and move on. No, Kobe Bryant ended up winning an Oscar.
Yeah.
An Oscar, not even a couple years after he retired. And the fact that he was still with that hunger, with that desire to improve and to, work hard for something, it showed. And lo and behold, it did pay off.
It did.
We'll never get to see the full true potential of what Kobe's post-basketball career would be like. But, the legacy that he did leave in the amount of time that he did on and off the court will certainly never be forgotten.
Right.
And following that as well, we do have to send a special Shield shout out to the Dallas Mavericks as well. Owner Mark Cuban and also the staff there at the Dallas Mavericks did say in lieu of the passing of Kobe Bryant that no other player for the Dallas Mavericks will even ever get to wear the number 24 for the franchise in honor of Kobe Bryant. Of course, Mark Cuban, one of the more vocal owners in the NBA. And of course, Kobe Bryant going up against the Dallas Mavericks over the years, certainly a lot of great games in the postseason. Nothing but respect on multiple fronts. The outpouring number of tributes with the 8-second violations and the 24-second calls. Of course, those are the two numbers that Kobe did wear in his playing career. Of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves had a nice tribute with their 24-second call, placing the ball on the free throw line where he passed Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list quite some time ago. Nothing but respect across the entire league. Whether you loved watching him, whether you rooted against him, you recognize the greatness that was Kobe Bryant. And, of course, the Dallas Mavericks did recognizing that by retiring the number 24, even though Kobe Bryant never wore any other uniform than an L.A. Laker jersey. Nothing but respect for Kobe. And
it looks like – sorry, Voldy. Looks like some zoners are commenting in, too, about their thoughts on what the NBA has done with Kobe's passing as well. Just kind of my thoughts. I just want to chime in here, too.
Absolutely.
With Kobe. First of all, I mean, so tragic. Absolutely 100% tragic. Kobe was a guy when I was a kid. I mean, I did a book report on Kobe Bryant, and just how well he played in the he was great on and off the court. He was a great father. I mean, honestly, I think Gianna would have been maybe even better than her dad, when she grew up in the WNBA or something like that. But Kobe Bryant, this is going to hurt, and it's going to hurt for a long time because Kobe Bryant was one of those guys that you saw greatness. You saw a guy that worked hard. You saw a guy that could score at will. I mean, every time you watch him play, you look and it's like, wow, that's like Michael Jordan. Like legitimately, he had, he copied some moves here and there. He'd always tell him, like, if MJ was in his prime, he'd beat his rear end, things like that. But I mean, there'll be none like Kobe. And also, we can't forget that there's so much, there's other people in that crash too. And it's just absolutely sad. And, I'm still shocked. I'm absolutely still shocked. But, and I'm sure, with the 8-second violations, 24-second violations too. I mean, just showing respect to one of the greatest. I mean, he's top 3 of all time in the NBA. And it's just hard, especially watching Shaquille O'Neal talk about Kobe. It just almost brought me to tears. And, it's tough, man. It's going to hurt for a while. And there's none like Kobe Bryant, man. So I'll let you.
There'll never be another Kobe, and all we have to do now is just continue to cherish each day that we have.
Agreed.
And with that, we'll keep on moving here with Shield shoutouts here this evening. We do have some good news as well for one of the homegrown players that has come from the state of Minnesota. Former Minnesota high school hockey player, you probably know the name from the last few years, Jack Jablonski, tweeted Thursday that he is a new content coordinator with the Los Angeles Kings, working in podcasting, radio, and TV as he signed a deal. He did graduate from USC recently and was also an intern in the communication department for the Kings and now has been hired full-time. So we do send a congratulatory Shield shout-out to Jack Jablonski, who was, hurt back in 2011 when playing for Benilde St. Margaret's out of St. Louis Park. And of course, we do know the story with that. Benilde St. Margaret's then moving on and winning a state title that year as well. So we do send a great Shield shout out to Jack Jablonski and, moving forward with life and also, getting that job with the Kings and staying involved in the great game of hockey. It's awesome to see Jabs moving forward in the world.
Right. I agree. 100%. I think he's been through a lot, and he's got a job that I think will, suit him well. And, he's definitely into the broadcasting, sports broadcasting, like me and you, Voldy. And we wish him nothing but the best. So.
Absolutely. Well, keep moving here with Shield Shoutouts. Says, do send a special Shield shoutout to Boston Bruins winger David Pastrnak, Pasta, if you will, winning the NHL All-Star Game MVP award. Winning with 36% of the fan vote. He did finish with 4 goals, 2 assists for the Atlantic Division, despite the fact that, they didn't even win the All-Star game, but fans recognizing David Pastrnak as the MVP of the All-Star game. Special Shield shout-out to Pasta.
I love it.
And finally, here this evening, we do send a Shield shout-out to Austin Stubbs, former SMSU Mustang first baseman and slugger, MinneZona Sports Zone Live Facebook-like number 200. That's 200. We got to send a special Shield shout-out to Austin Stubbs for like number 200. Thanks, Stubby. We appreciate especially all of you who have liked our Facebook page. Follow us on the socials medias, and we'll keep those likes coming. We'll keep pumping out the great entertainment.
Exactly. Well, Voldy, great job with the Shield shout-outs.
Yes, sir.
Great second show. I think it was fantastic. And hey, our zoners didn't take down the stream this time, so I think we're doing okay at that in that avenue. So, Kerf Doctor doing wonders over here, and obviously, we'll be back. We'll be back next week, I would assume, and we're gonna have even more fun. We're gonna probably be talking about the Super Bowl, obviously.
Yeah.
So a big game Sunday, and then Callahan School of Logic will be back next week. So it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. I cannot wait. But anyway, Voldy, great job. Kerf Doctor, fantastic job again. And we'll see you next week. And remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.